"Hubby not coming home tonight." On the phone, his wife's voice sounded hazy. A clear hint of drinking, and in the background, men were laughing and joking. The sound made his scalp tingle. "Hunter drank too much. I have to stay and take care of him." He gripped the phone, knuckles turning a stark white. His breathing grew heavy. "Vanessa, where are you guys?" Her answer was unbelievable. "The hotel only has one bed. We'll just squeeze in together." Then she laughed. A provocative laugh. "If you feel so wronged, go find your female best friend. Find someone prettier, with a better body, and go play with her however you want. I won't stop you." Then, the click of the disconnected call echoed in the silence. The phone screen reflected a cold smirk forming on his lips. "Fine, you said it. His name is Nathan Cross, and he's been married to Vanessa for 3 years now. He's a project manager at a small firm. She's a department head in the same industry. They were college classmates who just naturally walked into marriage after graduating. To everyone on the outside, they looked like the perfect, talented couple. But only he knew the ugly truth, that this marriage was rotting from the inside out. And the source of all that rot was her so-called male best friend. Hunter Hayes, a rich, pretty boy heir from a powerful family. A man who never even looked at Nathan with a hint of respect. Vanessa and Hunter would share a single straw to drink from the same milk tea. They'd call each other in the dead of night, chatting for hours on end. Sometimes until 2 or 3 in the morning, non-stop, even Hunter's contact name. In her phone was Darling, while his was just a cold, plain Nathan. He had warned her time and again to keep her distance from Hunter. But every single time, she would shut him down with the same template of excuses. Leaving him speechless. "Nathan, can you not be so petty? Ours is a pure friendship. Why is your mind so filthy? If you act like this, we can't communicate." And today of all days was their 3rd wedding anniversary. He had booked her favorite restaurant. The French place she adored, along with the diamond necklace she'd been asking for. The very one she wanted for over half a year. He waited from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. He waited so long the restaurant staff changed shifts twice over. The candles burned out. And they were relit. His reward for all that waiting was this one absurd phone call. Taking care of a drunk best friend by sharing a bed. It was absolutely ridiculous. His wedding anniversary had become the main event for their pure friendship carnival. The rage burned inside his chest, feeling like his organs were about to catch fire. But he didn't call back, he didn't question her, and he certainly didn't scream. He knew far too well that doing any of that would be completely useless. He'd just be accused of being unreasonable, troublesome, and petty all over again. He slowly stood up and pushed open the glass door of the restaurant. The cold night wind rushed into his jacket, instantly clearing his head a little. His mind became clearer than ever. She felt it was unfair. She told him to go. To find a female best friend. Fine, I'll satisfy her then. He scrolled through his phone. He scrolled to a contact number that had been gathering dust. The name, CEO Sterling. Victoria Sterling, a woman 100 times more beautiful than his wife, Vanessa. And 1,000 times richer than Hunter. She was the head of the entire Sterling Group. A woman with a net worth in the billions, and because of the Spirit System project. His company, Apex, had a partnership with the Sterling Group. As project lead, Nathan met her. A few times, at least, she was the untouchable queen of the business world. But in this moment, she became his sharpest weapon for revenge. Taking a deep breath, he hit the call button. The phone rang for a long, long time. So long he thought she'd hang up, but finally a cold, clear voice answered. Her words carried a faint trace of exhaustion. "Who is this?" "CEO Sterling, hello. It's Nathan Cross from Apex. I want to ask for your help. Or rather, I want to make a deal." She went quiet for a moment. You could almost hear her weighing his words. Her tone stayed completely professional. Not a single ripple of emotion. "Speak." So he did. "Please pretend to be my girlfriend." The moment the words left his mouth, even he knew it sounded absurd. A simple project manager. Daring to ask a billionaire CEO to be his fake girlfriend. It was an absolute pipe dream, but this was the fastest, most brutal revenge he could imagine. It was the only way to make his ex, Vanessa, feel the same pain he did. The sting of being ignored and betrayed, a soft laugh came from her end. Deeply amused, "Nathan, did I hear correctly? You want me to be your pretend girlfriend? Do you have any idea who I am?" He knew. He clenched his fists tight. His voice, however, was steady, not a single tremor. "In exchange for this, I'll give you the core technical data for the spirit system our company is developing." Completely free of charge, the spirit system was everything to him. It was the project he'd poured 2 years of his life into. Once it launched, Apex would become a major player in the industry. It would shine. This was his entire life's work, the most valuable thing he had to offer. The other end of the line fell into a deep silence once more. This time it dragged on, long enough to make anyone sweat, long enough that he thought she'd just hang up on him like he was some kind of lunatic. "Reason," Victoria's voice cut through the silence, cold as ever but now curious. Nathan looked out at the glittering city lights beyond his window. His words came out firm, resolute. "I need the sharpest knife I can find to cut the rot from my chest and pull out the thorn that's been poisoning my life." For the past 3 miserable years, Victoria laughed again. But the amusement was gone. Now it was genuine interest. "Interesting, come to my office. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring your sincerity and bring me your story. If your story is good enough, I might just agree to be your knife." At 8:50 a.m. the next day, he stood outside the CEO's office at Sterling Group. The secretary stared at him like he was some lost soul who'd wandered into a temple. Her eyes filled with pure shock and suspicion. "Mr. Cross, CEO Sterling is waiting." He pushed open the heavy wooden door, and there was Victoria, sitting before a massive floor-to-ceiling window, dressed in a sharp white suit. Her long hair was tied back loosely, revealing the elegant line of her neck. Sunlight streamed through the glass, wrapping her in a soft golden halo. She had this natural aura of power, so bright it was hard to even look at her. She didn't acknowledge him, just held a cup of black coffee in her hand. Quietly, she gazed down at the bustling city traffic far below. That cold, powerful presence made the very air in the room feel heavy. The entire office felt stagnant. "Sit," she said without turning, her voice clipped and utterly indifferent. He pulled out the chair and sat opposite her. He then pushed a sealed document bag in front of her. "CEO Sterling, this is the complete core documentation of the spirit system." Finally, she turned her head. Her gaze slowly settled on his face, revealing a pair of truly stunning eyes. But they were like a bottomless, cold pool, showing no emotion whatsoever. As if they could pierce right through a person's soul. "I'm in no rush to see this." She raised a hand, slid the document bag back, and started tapping the table. Her fingertips drummed lightly on the surface. "I'm more interested in what kind of story makes you bet your entire fortune." Nathan remained silent for a moment. Then he slowly began to speak, about falling in love at first sight with a girl. Vanessa in college, about the sweet times after marriage, and then the shift. The appearance of Hunter, all the little details he had forced himself to ignore. The resentment he swallowed alone late at night, the sting of being repeatedly pushed aside. In that moment, it all came flooding out like a broken dam. He told the story. He recounted it all with a strange calm, no angry accusations, no desperate screams. As if he were talking about someone else's life, yet his tightly clenched fists and trembling fingers betrayed the rage he had bottled up for 3 long years. Victoria listened quietly the entire time, never once interrupting him. She offered no comments either. Her deep, piercing eyes just stayed locked on his face. From beginning to end, it was like she was dissecting his very soul, reading every bit of his pain and resolve. When he spoke his last word, the office fell quiet. The silence was deafening. Finally, Victoria spoke, her voice laced with a cold and piercing irony. "So your wife cheated on you, then twisted it all around. She called you narrow-minded and filthy just for suspecting. Then, to top it off, she generously offered you a fair chance to find a female best friend of your own. All just to prove she wasn't wrong. That summary hit him like a punch to the gut. He smiled bitterly and nodded. Yes, and what do you want to do? She asked. Her tone was suddenly probing, simple. He looked up, meeting her stare head-on. His eyes were like steel. However she treated me, I'll return the favor exactly. She eats with Hunter, I'll eat with you. She watches movies with him then. I'll watch movies with you. She books a hotel room with Hunter, I will. He paused. He looked straight at her. A slight smirk played on Victoria's lips. A knowing half-smile. You'll book 2 rooms with me. No, 1 room, his tone was. Dead serious, without a hint of hesitation. I want her to experience exactly what I felt. Last night, I want her to know what true fairness really is. Victoria stared at him. The interest in her eyes deepened. Nathan, you're a bit more ruthless than I imagined. She stood up and slowly walked toward him. A faint, cold fragrance lingered in the air, aggressive but somehow pleasant. She reached out. She picked up the sealed document bag, her fingertips tracing the edges. Her movements were slow but held an aura of absolute power. Your story, I accept. And your sincerity, I accept that too. She looked down at him, her words sharp and clear. From now on, I, Victoria Sterling, am your female best friend. Or, if you want to call me your girlfriend, that works too. Here's to our cooperation. Vanessa, meanwhile, didn't come home until noon the next day. She pushed open the door opens. Her face is a mess of hangover fatigue, plus a hint of impatience. Seeing Nathan on the sofa, she doesn't even blink. She just tosses her bag aside, her tone dripping with entitlement, as if last night's disaster just never happened. Why are you still here? Aren't you going to work? In the past, he might have rushed to question her, starting a massive war of words, or maybe even begged her for an explanation. But now, he just wanted to laugh. He didn't answer her question at all. He just looked at her calmly. You're back. She walked over to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of iced water, and chugged it down in huge gulps. That Hunter can't stop drinking. He was tossing and turning all night. Nearly killed me, she complained, acting like she was the one who suffered. But she was also showing off. Nathan nodded, his voice dangerously calm. You worked hard. His calmness seemed to throw her off balance. She frowned and walked right up to him, her tone full of annoyance. Nathan, what do you mean by that? Stop being so passive-aggressive. I don't mean anything. He stood and grabbed his coat from off the sofa. I just think you're right. Whatever you say is right. She just looked completely bewildered. Things between us really should be a bit fairer. He buttoned his coat and adjusted his collar. I have a date with a friend, so I won't be back for dinner. After saying that, he turned and left, giving her no chance to ask questions. Vanessa just stood there frozen, clearly unable to process this sudden change. She chased him all the way to the door, her voice sharp and vigilant. Nathan, what friend, male or female? He stopped, turning his head to look, and a faint smile curled at the corners of his mouth. Take a guess. Bang. He shut the door, leaving her shocked and questioning, trapped behind him. At 5:30 p.m. He's driving his 3-year-old Volkswagen and parks just downstairs from the Sterling Group. Soon, a stunning figure emerges. Victoria had changed out of her professional suit into a simple black dress. The hem draped all the way to her calves, perfectly outlining her curves. In an instant, every single eye in the area was drawn right to her. Heads turned as she walked with purpose, straight towards his car. He opened the car door for her. Wait long, not long, I just got here. He started the car and smoothly merged into the flow of traffic. Where to? You can arrange it. She leaned back against the seat and closed her eyes. She seemed a little tired. He didn't say anything more and just focused on driving. He brought her to that same French restaurant where he waited 5 hours for Vanessa. When the waiter spotted him, a flash of surprise crossed his eyes. But he stayed polite, leading them to their reserved seats. Sir, the usual, no need for that. He handed the menu right to Victoria. Today, we'll be following this lady's lead. Victoria casually flipped through it, ordering some of the restaurant's most expensive dishes. After ordering, she looked right at him. Is this where you waited yesterday? Yes. For how long? 5 hours. She just nodded, saying nothing more. And with that, the atmosphere fell into a brief, heavy silence. Eating with a billionaire CEO brings so much pressure that even breathing feels loud. But right at that moment, his phone suddenly rang, the caller, Vanessa. He muted the call, refusing to answer, but it just kept ringing stubbornly. Victoria glanced at him, her tone indifferent, not going to answer, nothing worth saying. Her advice was cryptic. Sometimes, silence is more effective than speaking. But other times, speaking leaves a much deeper impression. Her words finally snapped him out of it. When the phone rang again, he hit the answer button, casually flicking on the speakerphone. Nathan, where are you? Why in the world didn't you answer my calls? Vanessa's explosive voice blasted right through the speaker. It practically hurt his eardrums. I'm eating. His own voice stayed calm without a ripple. Eating? Who are you eating with? She immediately demanded. Is that friend of yours a man or a woman? He didn't answer, instead turning to look at Victoria. Victoria set down her glass, leaned just a little closer to the phone, and used a lazy, provocative tone to speak softly. With me, of course, and who are you? Vanessa's voice went sharp, absolutely laced with shock. Victoria just laughed, her cold voice dripping with mockery. Who I am isn't important. What's important is that your husband belongs to me now. The other end of the line went completely silent. He could practically picture her face, shocked, furious, and in pure disbelief. A full 12 seconds passed. Then Vanessa's scream pierced through the phone. Nathan, you dare. You actually dare find another woman behind my back, you bastard. This is getting interesting. He picked up the phone, turned off speaker mode, and his voice turned to ice. Vanessa, don't forget, you're the one who allowed this, to find one. You said you wanted everything to be fair. Right now, I'm just being fair. But he cut her off, his tone completely empty of warmth. Don't call me again. I'm very busy. After saying his piece, he hung up and casually added Vanessa's number to his block list. The whole motion was smooth, effortless, finally. The entire world was at peace. Across from him, Victoria's radiant eyes were fixed on him, her gaze filled with an amused curiosity. So how does it feel? More refreshing than I can describe. He let out a long, deep sigh of relief. The knot in his chest from the last 3 years vanished in an instant. As if a huge boulder weighing on his heart had just been lifted, even breathing suddenly felt light. She just smirked, saying nothing else. This meal was exceptionally satisfying for him. Dishes that usually tasted bland were now bursting with incredible flavor. Even the air around him seemed to smell like freedom. After their meal, Victoria suggested they go see a movie. He naturally agreed. They headed straight for the biggest cinema in the city center. As it turned out, a romance movie was playing. The very same one Vanessa and Hunter had already seen. After she got home, Vanessa had nagged him endlessly about how Hunter had cried his eyes out watching it, calling him a man of pure temperament. At the time, those words were just grating, making his stomach churn. Now he took the initiative, bought the tickets, and stepped into the quiet theater. There weren't many people inside, so quiet you could only hear the flickering lights from the screen. The plot was a total cliché. Just the male and female leads going through endless misunderstandings, barely missing each other over and over again. Until they finally got back together. Becoming husband and wife, he watched until he felt sleepy, his head starting to nod off. Victoria was completely focused, and in the darkness, he could just make out her features. He saw the sharp profile of her face, her strong brows and slightly upturned eyes. A cold expression, for sure, but so beautiful he found it impossible to look away. The movie hit its climax, a real tearjerker where the female lead contracted a terminal illness, and the male lead was crying his heart out in the pouring rain. Nathan just yawned, rubbing his eyes, about to doze off for a moment when suddenly, his shoulder grew heavy. Victoria's head was resting gently right there. He froze instantly, his breath catching in his throat. Then came a faint, cold fragrance, the exact same bold scent he remembered from the restaurant. His heart hammered wildly in his chest, his mind racing with questions. Was she just acting, committing completely to the role? He didn't dare even twitch. He made his breathing impossibly light. She really did seem exhausted. Her breathing was steady and deep, as if she had actually fallen asleep. He turned his head, just slightly, seeing only the soft strands of hair at her temple. For the entire second half of the movie, he didn't register a single word. His mind was just completely filled with the soft warmth on his shoulder and her steady breath. Even his fingertips felt like they were burning. Only when the movie ended and the lights suddenly came up did Victoria slowly sit up, rubbing her tired, sleepy eyes. Her tone was so natural, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. "Sorry, I've been too tired lately. I guess I fell asleep. It's fine." His cheeks were burning hot, his words coming out in a stutter. He didn't dare look up and meet her gaze. By the time they stepped out of the cinema, it was late. The night breeze was cool against his face, a feeling that was surprisingly refreshing. "I'll walk you back," he offered, his voice still trembling slightly. Victoria just shook her head, pointing to a Maserati parked just a short distance away. "No need, I drove." "Then where do you live?" he quickly asked, giving her his apartment complex's address. She just nodded gently. "Let's go, I'll drop you off." No, it's fine, I can just drive myself." He frantically waved his hands. "I'll have someone bring your car over tomorrow." Her tone left no room for argument. She pulled open the passenger door, her voice firm with an undeniable command. "Get in." With no other choice, he got into the passenger seat. The car glided smoothly down the empty streets, lights flashing past the windows. "Nathan." Victoria suddenly spoke, shattering the silence inside the car. "Aren't you curious why I'm helping you?" And he was genuinely curious. Why would a billionaire CEO bother playing this petty revenge game with him? Why? She turned to face him. Her voice, cold and clear, sounded deadly serious in the quiet car. "I also hate people who talk constantly about fairness, but are completely unfair themselves." She paused for a moment, a flicker of ice flashing in her eyes. "Moreover, the Hayes family, they're direct competitors of the Sterling Group, the enemy of my enemy is my friend." So that was it. The pieces suddenly clicked into place. The lingering doubt in his mind finally disappeared. However, her entire tone shifted. She glanced over at him, a subtle, almost unnoticeable smile in her eyes. "Still, the way you hung up that phone today was pretty impressive." His heart skipped a beat. Just then, the car pulled up in front of his apartment building. He pushed open the door to get out, but Victoria got out too, casually leaning against the car. Her eyebrows arched at the door. "Go on up, CEO Sterling." "Thank you for today," he said softly, his heart brimming with gratitude. "Call me Victoria." "Victoria," he repeated, as if tasting the softness in her name. She nodded in response, looking completely satisfied with his reply. "The play has just begun. No need to rush the thanks." Then she changed the subject, reminding him, "Any plans for tomorrow?" He was slightly taken aback. Tomorrow was the weekend. In the past, he'd usually just stay home and sleep, but now you're not alone." Her smile was an irresistible invitation. "Pick me up at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We're going shopping." And with that, she turned around, opened the door, and slipped into the Maserati. She started the engine and drove off with style, leaving him with just her elegant silhouette and a beautiful string of tail lights. He stood there, just watching the spot where her car had vanished, completely stunned for the longest time. Shopping with a billionaire CEO, it felt like a dream, absolutely, terrifyingly unreal. When he got home, the house was completely dark. Vanessa still wasn't back. Good, it saved him from having to face her hypocrisy. He showered and laid down in bed, but he just tossed and turned, completely unable to sleep. A movie replayed inside his head. One moment, it was Vanessa's piercing screams over the phone, irritating him beyond belief. The next, Victoria was leaning against his shoulder, her warm breath and cool scent making his heart race, two completely different feelings. One left him annoyed, the other left him flustered. The next day, he woke up right at dawn. As if possessed, he dug out a suit from the back of his closet. It was the one his mother had basically forced on him for his wedding. Great material. But he had never brought himself to wear it even a single time. Facing the mirror, he carefully tied his tie, repeatedly adjusting his collar. The man in the mirror had lost that gloomy look, that downcast look from before. His eyes now held a bit more fire. He looked a little unfamiliar, but definitely easier on the eyes. At 9:30, he set out, driving to the address Victoria had given him. It was an ultra-luxurious neighborhood, the kind you only see on magazine covers. Even the security guards at the gate had perfect uniforms, their presence more imposing than his own company's CEO. He gave Victoria's name and unit number, and the guard immediately let him pass with deep respect. Even the gaze he received held a hint of awe. He parked by the villa's gate, feeling out of place. Even the air smelled of money, making his entire body tense up. Just as he pulled out his phone to call her, the villa door clicked open. Victoria walked out. She was dressed down today, wearing a simple white t-shirt and some light blue jeans. Her long hair flowed freely over her shoulders, and she was wearing light makeup. Gone was the queen-like aura from the office, replaced by a friendly girl-next-door feeling. But even so, nothing could hide her stunning beauty and presence. "Wait long?" she asked with a smile. "Just got here," he answered, a little nervous. "Get in." He quickly got out and opened the car door for her. She slid in easily. They drove to the most exclusive mall in the city, a place he had only ever dared to walk past before, never imagining he'd actually go inside. Victoria's her objective was crystal clear. She headed right for the men's section and started picking things out. She grabbed several outfits for him, from casual wear to sharp formal suits. Every single one was absurdly expensive. "Go try them on," she shoved the clothes at him. "These are too expensive." He couldn't help but click his tongue, staring at the long string of zeros on the price tags. "I told you this is a partnership. The equipment costs are billed to the project." She gave him no room to refuse, pushing him right into the fitting room. When he finally finished changing and came out, Victoria was on the sofa reading a magazine. At the sound, she looked up. The moment she saw him, her eyes lit up. "Not bad." She stood up, walked over, and reached out to adjust his collar. Her cold fingertips brushed against his neck, sending a sudden shiver through him. Fine feathers make fine birds. She took a step back, looking him over with obvious satisfaction. "Now you're worthy of being my Victoria Sterling's boyfriend." That one word sent his heart hammering against his ribs. Just then, an unwelcome voice cut through the air. "Nathan." He turned his head. Vanessa and Hunter were standing there, staring at the two of them in shock. Vanessa's eyes were locked onto Victoria's hands as they adjusted Nathan's collar, her expression so intense she looked about to breathe fire. Hunter's face was just as ugly. His eyes were filled with scrutiny and open hostility. Perfect timing, Nathan thought. The main event had finally begun. "Why are you guys here?" Vanessa strode over, her voice practically an interrogation. She sized Victoria up and down, making no effort to hide her jealousy and disdain. "Who is this?" Nathan moved forward, subtly shielding Victoria. "This is Victoria, my friend." Vanessa sneered, her eyes falling to his new clothes. "A friend who spends tens of thousands to buy you clothes. Nathan, you've got some guts now." Since when is she so generous? For her, it always came down to money. Before Nathan could even speak, Victoria took a graceful step forward and hooked her arm right through his. The gesture was intimate, yet completely natural. "Of course I bought them," she smiled breezily at Vanessa. "My man naturally has to dress well, your man." Vanessa looked as if she had just heard the biggest joke in the world, her voice cracking. little miss. Have you got your facts straight? He is my husband. Oh. Victoria raised an eyebrow, looking over at Nathan with a question in her eyes. He met her gaze, his mind already made up. Soon I won't be. At that, Vanessa's face turned white. Nathan, what do you mean by that? Exactly what it sounds like, he said, looking at her, his every word crystal clear. Vanessa, let's get a divorce. He had thought about that sentence countless times, but never had he imagined saying it so lightly and with such finality. The air in the room instantly froze. Vanessa stood there, dumbfounded, her lips trembling, unable to form a single word. Beside her, Hunter finally saw his moment to play the hero. He stepped forward, shielding Vanessa behind him like some kind of righteous defender. Nathan. Don't go too far. What kind of man bullies a woman like this, if there's misunderstanding between you two, just talk it out. There's no need. To make things so tense, there it was again, his classic peacemaker routine. Nathan looked at him, the irony almost making him laugh. Bully, he scoffed. Hunter, when you model his wife stayed out all night, so why wasn't he being bullied? When she and Hunter shared a straw for milk tea, where was the fairness then? Now he just finds a friend to go shopping with, and suddenly he's gone too far. Mr. Hayes, he sneered, plays the double standard game quite well. Hunter's face went from red to pale. He insisted that he and Vanessa were just innocent friends. Was that so? A voice cut through the air. It wasn't loud, but Victoria's words carried a heavy, oppressive weight no one could ignore. She sized Hunter up, her gaze cold as if she were looking at an object. I remember you now. The young master of Hayes' real estate, Hunter Hayes. Hunter was stunned for a moment, clearly shocked that this woman even knew who he was. And you are. Who she was didn't matter, Victoria said calmly. The important thing is, I heard the Hayes family is bidding on that plot of land in the south of the city, and their biggest rival is the Sterling Group. Hunter's expression shifted completely. You're from the Sterling Group, what a coincidence. Victoria smirked, gripping Nathan's arm even tighter. I'm Victoria Sterling. Hunter's jaw just about hit the floor. He stared at Victoria, then back at Nathan, his eyes filled with absolute shock and disbelief. Vanessa, too, was completely stunned. She had no idea what the Sterling Group was, but she could read the panic written all over Hunter's face. She knew this woman was on a level she could never hope to challenge. In the crowded mall, curious onlookers were already starting to stare in their direction. Let's go. Nathan had no desire to waste another second on them. He pulled Victoria, turned, and simply walked away. Nathan, Vanessa's shrill scream echoed behind him. Stop right there and explain yourself, but he didn't turn back. From the moment he uttered the word divorce, there was nothing left to say. Stepping out of the mall, the bright sunlight was almost blinding. Victoria finally let go of his arm and gave him a look. Congratulations on taking the first step. He looked back at her, a storm of emotions inside. Thank you, don't mention it. She smiled. I told you I'm your knife, and right now this knife has just been drawn. When Nathan got home, Vanessa was already there, sitting on the sofa. Her expression was so dark it looked like a thundercloud. On the coffee table was his suitcase. His clothes were shoved inside haphazardly, with some pieces even spilling out onto the floor, so she was trying to kick him out. He sneered internally. Nathan, you've got some nerve. Seeing him, Vanessa shot up, crossing her arms. You found some rich sugar mommy, and now you want to throw me away. Well, I'm telling you, no chance. We are not divorced yet. You are still my legal husband. If you dare cheat on me, I can sue you for adultery. Looking at her completely unhinged state, he could only find it laughable. Vanessa, have you forgotten? You and Hunter spent the night at a hotel first. You want to sue me? Where is your proof? But for you too, we have solid evidence. His retort left her utterly speechless, her face flushing bright red. Hunter and I did nothing. We're innocent. Do you actually believe that? He shot back. She went quiet, knowing full well he didn't believe a word of it. In the past, he might have chosen to lie to himself for the sake of a peaceful home. But not anymore. Pack your things and get the hell out. Vanessa pointed at the door. A suitcase on the coffee table. His wife was screaming at him, completely losing control. This house was her asset from before they married. Only her name was on the deed. And that was the leverage that made her so fearless in front of him. All this time, he had believed a husband and wife shouldn't need to keep such careful score. But now he saw the truth, how utterly naive he had been. He didn't even bother to look at the suitcase. Instead, he walked right up to her and stared. He looked her dead in the eye. "Vanessa, do you really want to do this?" "What are you talking about? Get out right now." Her arrogance was still there. "Fine." He gave a slight nod, making every single word crystal clear. "The house is yours." "I won't take it. The car I bought with my own money after we married." "So it's mine. Our joint savings after 3 years is 370 million and it's on your card. We split that down the middle." He paused. Then he pulled a neatly folded paper from his pocket, handing it over to her. "This lists all my expenses for this family over the past 3 years. I paid the monthly mortgage, I covered utilities and gas, and most of the bags. And cosmetics you bought, I paid for those too. The total is 428,600. Subtract my half, and you owe me 214,300. This is how we'll divide the assets for the divorce. You don't have any objections, do you?" He watched her, perfectly calm. Vanessa instantly froze in place. She probably never thought the usually obedient Nathan, who never once penny pinched, would one day calculate things with such brutal clarity. "Nathan, what do you mean by this?" Her arrogant facade shattered, her voice filled with panic. "You're actually calculating this with me. Why wouldn't I?" He shot back. "Haven't you always demanded I be fair? This is the fairest way." Her lips moved, but she couldn't get a single word out. Her face drained of color. From flushed to pale to an ashen gray, he didn't even look at her anymore. He just turned and walked into the bedroom. He didn't have many belongings. Just a few changes of clothes, a computer, and some stacks of books. He casually threw them all into a backpack, finishing up in a flash. When he walked out of the bedroom, Vanessa was still standing there, motionless. She was absolutely stunned. Her eyes were filled with unfamiliarity and a deep fear. She was finally realizing that the man she could so easily manipulate, the Nathan she could just trample on, had completely vanished. He walked to the door. He opened it, then turned his head back to deliver one last sentence. "The itemized bill is on the table. My lawyer will contact you soon about the divorce papers." After saying that, he walked out without a second thought. The moment the door clicked shut, the sound of something shattering echoed from inside. That was followed by Vanessa's suppressed sobs, but his heart felt nothing. Not a single ripple. His heart was already dead. Now he was just finding a proper resting place for this soulless body. He left that house. And for now, he was staying at a hotel. After telling Victoria the entire story, she simply replied with a cool, "Well done." Immediately after, she sent an address. "Come stay here. Staying in a hotel all the time isn't practical." It was a massive, high-end apartment right in the city center. The decor was minimalist, but everything about it exuded pure luxury, one of her properties rarely ever used. On normal days, she pushed a key into his hand, saying softly, "Consider the rent as part of your technical fee." And Nathan didn't put on an act of refusal. Right now, he desperately needed a stable place to live. "Thank you. Partners don't need to thank each other." She paused, then added, "Besides, staying closer makes our dates much easier." In the days that followed, things were calm, even peaceful. Vanessa never contacted him again. It seems she was finally intimidated by that massive bill. His lawyer had stepped in and was handling the divorce details with her. He heard she was absolutely refusing to agree. Instead, she was crying, throwing tantrums, and cursing him for being heartless. He left all of it for the lawyer to handle. Meanwhile, his dates with Victoria continued. They ate fancy dinners, visited art exhibits, and even went to concerts, all the things normal couples do. Yet, there was always a subtle barrier between them. More like allies than lovers. And Nathan knew she was helping him, and she knew he was using her. It was a mutual, unspoken understanding. Then one day, the company's CEO suddenly called him into his office. "Nathan, how's the progress on the Spirit System project?" CEO Vance picked up a teacup and took a sip. "Everything is going smoothly, Mr. Vance," Nathan answered honestly. "That's good," CEO Vance nodded, but his tone suddenly shifted. "I've heard that recently, you and CEO Sterling have become very close." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. News travels fast. It's just a personal relationship. "A personal relationship," CEO Vance offered a knowing smile. "I heard all about it. You two are basically at the point of discussing marriage." "Nathan, you're really something, hiding it so well from us. When did you manage to woo a VIP like CEO Sterling?" Nathan had no idea how to explain, so he could only manage a vague smile. "Mr. Vance, who told you that?" "Hunter Hayes from Hayes Real Estate called me himself." CEO Vance then patted Nathan's shoulder. "He wants to discuss a partnership with us for the Spirit System. And his terms are way better than Sterling's." Nathan understood immediately. This was Hunter's revenge. The guy couldn't touch Victoria in the business world, so he targeted him instead. He wanted to pull the rug out from under him, cutting the partnership link between him and Victoria. Once he lost the Spirit System project, he'd be worthless in her eyes. Then, if she kicked him to the curb, he'd become a laughing stock in the entire industry. What a brilliant scheme, using someone else's knife. "Mr. Vance, what exactly are you implying?" he asked, his voice low. "Nathan, of course I trust you," CEO Vance put on his most sincere face. "But the company needs to consider its bottom line. And the Hayes family's terms are just too attractive. So why don't you arrange a meeting so Hunter and CEO Sterling can sit down and negotiate? Then whoever offers the better price gets the partnership. Fair competition, right?" Looking at his boss's hypocritical smile, a deep chill settled in Nathan's heart. This so-called fair competition was just a scheme to put him on the spot, letting them reap the rewards while he took all the heat. "Okay, I'll arrange it," he promised, then walked out of the office. He called Victoria immediately and explained the entire situation clearly. The other end of the line went quiet. A low chuckle followed. "A setup, interesting. What's your next move?" he asked. "When soldiers attack, generals defend. When water rises, earth contains it." Her voice was utterly devoid of tension. "Just give me the time and place. And leave the rest to me." The meeting was held in a private room at an exclusive club. By the time Nathan arrived, CEO Vance and Hunter were already waiting for him. Seeing him, Hunter's face twisted into a smug, cold sneer. His gaze was cruel. Like a predator looking at prey about to be publicly executed. "Nathan, you're here." CEO Vance greeted him with false enthusiasm, inviting him to sit. "And where is CEO Sterling?" "Has she not arrived? She should be here any moment." And just as Nathan finished, the door to the private room swung open. In walked Victoria. She was in a long red dress, her powerful aura on full display. The moment she entered, the very air in the room seemed to crystallize, both CEO Vance and Hunter shot to their feet out of pure instinct. "CEO Sterling, your presence is an honor. You truly bring glory to our humble meeting," CEO Vance said, rubbing his hands together. His face was a mask of flattery. Hunter's own face was stiff, but he forced a smile. "CEO Sterling, I've admired you for a long, long time." Victoria didn't give them a glance. She walked directly to Nathan's side and elegantly took the seat next to him. Then she looked at CEO Vance. Her tone was pure ice. "Mr. Vance, my time is valuable. If you have something to say, I suggest you get straight to the point." The CEO, choked by her presence, just laughed awkwardly. "Well, you see, CEO Sterling, Mr. Hayes is quite interested in our company's Spirit System, so we invited you here for a little fair competition. Whoever offers the highest price wins." "Fair is fair," Victoria laughed, but the sound was cold, dripping with mockery. She turned her head to face Hunter directly, her tone now dangerously sharp. Hunter, are you even qualified to discuss fairness with me? His face instantly flushed a deep, ugly red. CEO Sterling, what is that supposed to mean? You know exactly what it means. Victoria calmly picked up a teacup from the table. She blew on it gently. You thought using CEO Vance as your backup would be enough to force my hand. You thought stealing one little spirit system could actually hurt the Sterling Group. Hunter, you're naive, or perhaps you're just stupid. Hunter trembled with absolute rage, but he was speechless. He couldn't get a single word out. In front of her, his pathetic little tricks were nothing more than a child's game, laughable and immature. Victoria then turned to CEO Vance. Cold sweat was already beading on his forehead. Mr. Vance, you seem to be mistaken about a few things. What things? The spirit system. It no longer belongs to your Apex company. As she said this, Victoria pulled a document from her bag and slapped it onto the table. As of yesterday, I acquired the entirety of Apex company, which means I am now the boss. And as for Nathan, she paused, her gaze shifting to him with a sly, meaningful smile. He is now the chief director of the Spirit System Project, a special technical advisor. Invited by the Sterling Group and my boyfriend. Boom. A bomb went off in Nathan's brain, leaving nothing but white noise. Apex Company had been acquired. CEO Vance and Hunter were completely shell-shocked, just staring. They gawked at the acquisition contract on the table with their jaws on the floor, like they'd seen a ghost. Victoria stood, looking down at them from her full height. Now, do you have anything to add? Model, anything else to say? The room was utterly silent, the banquet ending on a sour note. CEO Vance and Hunter left looking dejected, especially Vance, who felt like a total fool. He thought he was playing fisherman, only to have some whale come and buy his entire pond. Stepping outside the clubhouse, Nathan still couldn't quite process what had just happened. You really just bought them out, he stammered. It was nothing. The price of breakfast, Victoria said with a casual shrug. Is this what the world of the rich is like? He asked, stunned. She looked him dead in the eye, completely serious. I told you, I am your knife. Dealing with people like that requires the most direct approach. You have to make them hurt. A pain so deep they'll never forget it. Only then will they never dare to try again. A strange warmth bloomed in his chest. This time he meant it from the bottom of his heart. Thank you, she didn't reply. Instead, she just smiled and asked a dangerous question. So, how are you going to repay me? He was stunned. He had nothing. The only real asset he had to offer her was that technical document, but now the whole damn company belonged to her. How about this? She suddenly moved closer, her warm breath brushing against his ear. You can repay me with your body. His face instantly flushed a deep crimson. The blush spread from his ears all the way down his neck. Her plan worked perfectly. Seeing him so flustered, she erupted in laughter, like a kid who just pulled the best prank. I'm just teasing you, she said, patting his shoulder. Let's go, boyfriend, buy your boss dinner. That night they talked about everything, from their jobs to their lives, to everything in between. And eventually, their pasts. He finally understood she'd also been through a crushing heartbreak. A failed relationship hurt her so badly that she'd built walls around her heart. She became a hedgehog, using coldness and strength as armor to protect herself. In that way, they were exactly the same. After a bit of wine, her eyes were sparkling. She puts on such a tough act, but deep down, she wants warmth more than anyone. Looking at her flushed cheeks and that unguarded expression in her eyes, that fleeting moment of vulnerability touched a place deep within his heart. It was late when they finally got back to the apartment, and he walked her to her door. Good night, but just as he turned to leave, she stopped him. Nathan, he turned around. She took a step forward. She rose up on her tiptoes, and a soft, cool kiss gently landed on his lips. It was there and gone in an instant, a barely there touch that left him reeling. He stood there completely frozen, his entire body feeling like it was on fire. That's the down payment, she said, her cheeks a little flushed, a playful glint in her eyes. As for the rest, you can come pay the final balance when you've figured things out." After saying that, she spun around and basically ran back into her room like she was escaping. He just stood there, touching his lips, where her warmth and fragrance seemed to linger. His heart was hammering against his ribs. He knew it then. He was completely screwed. He was definitely falling for her. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings went off without a hitch. Faced with that kind of absolute, overwhelming power, all of Vanessa's desperate struggling was pointless. She was like a tiny bug trying to stop a runaway train, futile. The divorce lawyer representing him was a personal introduction from Victoria, the best in the city. In comparison, the lawyer Vanessa hired was a total lightweight facing a champion. He looked like a terrified intern, getting shut down so hard he was left utterly speechless. The poor guy didn't even have the nerve to mutter a single word in protest. In the end, Vanessa was cornered. She had no choice but to accept all of his conditions, assets, debts. Every single clause was written clearly in black and white. On signing day, Vanessa asked to meet him one last time at a cafe. She was completely changed. Her once radiant appearance was gone. She looked so haggard, barely like herself. The red, bloodshot lines in her eyes were impossible to miss. "Nathan," she began. She looked up at him, her eyes swollen like walnuts, her voice thick with tears. "Did we really have to come to this?" He calmly replied. "The agreement is signed." His tone was utterly flat. "But I regret it," she sobbed, her voice cracking. She suddenly got emotional, grabbing his wrist tightly. "I know I was wrong, Nathan. I shouldn't have gotten so close to Hunter, shouldn't have ignored your feelings. Will you forgive me? Can we start over?" Her hand was freezing cold. She was trembling. He smoothly pulled his hand back. "Vanessa, it's too late." He looked her dead in the eye, his words sharp and clear. "The moment you hung up on me and spent the night at a hotel with Hunter, it was already completely over. A broken mirror, even if you glue it back together, will always show the cracks. Our relationship was smashed to pieces by your own hands a long time ago. It can never be fixed. No, it's not like that," she cried, shaking her head. Her whole body shook violently. "It's Hunter. He lied to me. He said he liked me, that he'd treat me well. But guess what? He's a complete monster. A total bastard. He heard you and Victoria were together, and then, afraid of offending the Sterling group, he just kicked me to the curb. He said we were only friends and told me to stop bothering him." She sobbed, totally out of control, like a child abandoned by the world, curled up in the corner. And there it was, the so-called alliance between these two despicable people. Just a fragile bubble that popped the second that profit was on the line. He looked at her, feeling absolutely no sympathy, only finding it all pathetic. "If you knew this would happen, why did you even do it in the first place? That's your business. It has nothing to do with me." He stood up, preparing to leave. "Nathan," she cried, grabbing his shirt hem and dropping heavily to her knees. Her knees slammed against the cold, hard floor. "Give me one more chance. I'm begging you. From now on, I promise I will live properly with you. I'll never see Hunter again." By now, the whole cafe had started to stare. Their curious gazes were locked on them, making him feel completely on edge. He frowned, trying to break free from her grip, but she held on incredibly tight. Her fingernails nearly dug right into the fabric, but right then, a pair of elegant high heels stopped beside his feet. Victoria had arrived. She glanced at Vanessa kneeling on the floor, then at him, and then she bent down gently. She pried Vanessa's desperately gripping fingers off his shirt, one by one. "Miss," her voice was as cold as ice, completely without warmth, "chasing a man who no longer loves you. Don't you feel you're losing your dignity?" Vanessa looked up the instant she saw Victoria, as if she'd just found her last hope. Her last lifeline. She crawled over and grabbed the leg of Victoria's pants. "CEO Sterling, please just put in a good word with Nathan for me. Tell him to forgive me. You two are just acting right. You aren't really together." Victoria stood up straight, pulling him right behind her as she addressed the whole cafe. And just like that, she turned, She held his face with both her hands and kissed him. Deeply, this kiss was no gentle peck like before. It was something else entirely. It was filled with undeniable dominance, a kiss that declared total ownership. The burning heat from their lips sent a shock through him, freezing him on the spot. The guests around them were absolutely stunned. The whispering died down. Every conversation stopped cold, and all eyes were now focused on them. All the blood drained from Vanessa's face, leaving it as pale as a sheet of paper. The light in her eyes completely faded away, after what felt like an eternity. Victoria slowly pulled away from him. She looked down at Vanessa on the floor. Her voice was clear and cold. "So, do you still think we are acting now?" Vanessa crumpled to the floor, her eyes completely empty like a dried-up well. All her strength was gone, leaving none of her previous arrogance behind. Victoria didn't even give her a second glance. She locked her arm tightly with his and walked away. "Let's go, we're going home." His chapter with Vanessa was completely over. What happened to her from now on, for better or worse? He would never care again. His own life, however, had turned to a brand new page. In that moment, with Victoria's complete support, he finally established his own new technical team dedicated entirely to the in-depth research of the spirit system. The Sterling Group gave them the best of the best. Capital, equipment, and the top minds in the field were all at his disposal. Every day he was so busy he barely stopped, but he felt an incredible sense of fulfillment and security he'd never known. His relationship with Victoria was now official. She would often come by the company to see him, bringing a thermos. Inside was a bento box she'd made herself. The fragrant rice and the delicious soup were filled with the simple comforts of life. He would also leave work early sometimes, waiting downstairs at the Sterling Group to pick her up. They would go home together, just like any other ordinary couple, sharing the small details of work, laughing about interesting things from their day, turning peaceful days into poetry. One late night, they stood on their balcony, leaning against the railing side by side, watching the stars, the city's neon lights tried to outshine the night sky, but the stars still twinkled back. She nudged him gently with her elbow, her eyes curving into a sly little smile. "You still owe me one final payment. When are you planning on settling that bill?" He turned to her. His gaze met her star-filled eyes, and he couldn't help but crack a smile himself. He didn't say a word. Instead, he just leaned down and took the initiative. He kissed her lips. The gentle moonlight and the city's neon glow blurred into the background, wrapping them in a romance that was theirs alone. He once thought his world would always be a dull, depressing gray place, filled with fog and despair, but she was like a ray of dawn light, forcefully breaking through to scatter all the cold and darkness, letting him finally feel how warm and safe it is to be chosen, to be loved so tenderly by someone. He learned true fairness isn't about getting revenge on someone who wronged you. It's about having the strength to leave someone who only drags you down. It's about walking away when you're exhausted and embracing the one who makes you better. The one who puts the light back in your eyes, and how lucky he was to have met her. In his most wretched days, she was his knife, cutting through the thorns of his past. She was the light that shattered the darkness, illuminating the way forward for him. She was his Victoria, his one and only sanctuary in this entire life.